कौन नहीं चाहता कि उसका मेंटर एक यूपीएससी रैंकर हो। 2021 के फाइनल रिजल्ट्स में सिविल्स दिल्ली आईएएस के 200 से भी ज्यादा सिलेक्शंस हैं। गाइस, आई एम गोइंग टू कनेक्ट यू 1-to-1 विद सिविल्स दिल्ली रैंकर्स फॉर फ्री। देयर इज अ लिंक इन द डिस्क्रिप्शन, फिल इट एंड शेड्यूल अ सेशन। These ranker will prepare a timetable and a personalized plan for you. ये टॉपर्स आपको exactly वही बताएंगे कि कौन सी बुक फॉलो करनी है, कौन सा चैप्टर पढ़ना है. They will guide you in answer writing, mocks and accessing them. Don't miss this golden opportunity to get mentored by a ranker.
मित्रों नमस्कार, मेरा नाम ज्ञानेश्वर मूले है। मैं आजकल राष्ट्रीय मानवाधिकार आयोग में सदस्य के रूप से काम कर रहा हूं, लेकिन मेरा बहुतांश करियर जो है विदेश मंत्रालय में इंडियन फॉरेन सर्विस में रहा है। मैं 1983 के आईएफएस में सिलेक्ट किया गया था। ये बात रही कि मैं, शायद आप जानते हैं, गांव से आता हूं। मेरे पिताजी एक किसान थे, कृषक थे, खेत में काम करते थे। मेरी माँ एक तरह से आप समझिए कि उसको अक्षर ज्ञान नहीं था, वो भी खेत में काम करती थी, घर में भी काम करती थी। तो ऐसे पार्श्वभूमि में वहाँ से आया हूँ। आजकल तो यूपीएससी के बारे में सब हर कोई जानता है। वो समय था कि किसी को भी यूपीएससी के बारे में पता नहीं था, बिल्कुल ही। ऐसे माहौल में एक बार ऐसा हो गया, हमारे स्कूल में जिला परिषद के जो सीईओ है उस वक्त के, वो आए थे हमसे संबोधन करने के लिए। मैंने ये देखा कि हमारे जो शिक्षक है वो सब उनके बहुत आगे पीछे कर रहे थे, उनको सम्मान दे रहे थे। तो मैंने सोचा ये इतना युवा अधिकारी है, इसके आगे पीछे क्यों है। तो मैंने ये जाना कि ये आईएएस अफसर है। तो पहली बार ये शब्द आईएएस जो है मेरे कान में गूंजा और वो वहीं पर ठहर गया, और उसने मुझे एक अपने मन में एक उत्सुकता पैदा की कि ये आईएएस क्या होता है। और वहाँ से मेरा ये आईएएस के बारे में जो है एक शोध कार्य जारी हो गया, और मैंने थोड़ा सा पढ़ना शुरू कर दिया। उस समय हमारे यहाँ कलेक्टर आते थे, और हमारे यहाँ कॉरपोरेशन बन गई थी कोल्हापुर में, कोल्हापुर म्यूनसिपल कॉरपोरेशन। तो उसके जो कमिश्नर या आयुक्त है वो भी आईएएस अफसर थे। तो मैं उनको चिट्ठी लिखता था, एक्चुअली पोस्ट कार्ड। उस समय 6 पैसे का या 10 पैसे का पोस्ट कार्ड आता था, उस पर मैं चिट्ठी लिखता था कि मैं फलाना हूँ, आप आईएएस है, मुझे आपको मिलना है। तो कई सारी चिट्ठियों के जवाब नहीं आते थे। कभी कभी किसी प्रोग्राम में उनको मिलने का मौका मिलता था तो 2 शब्द हम एक दूसरे से बात कर सकते थे, लेकिन किसी ने ये नहीं समझा कि इस गांव से भी, इस शहर से भी कोई आईएएस हो सकता है। उस माहौल से मैं आया। उसी माहौल में फिर मैं कॉलेज मैंने ज्वाइन किया। इन द कॉलेज अगेन इट वाज अ मराठी मीडियम प्राइमरली कॉलेज, लेकिन माय प्रिंसिपल ही न्यू द इम्पोर्टेंस ऑफ इंग्लिश, बिकॉज हमारे पास इंग्लिश का ज्ञान बिल्कुल नहीं था। तो उन्होंने मुझे स्पेशल केयर लेकर, अपने विंग्स के अंडर लेकर, हर दिन वो मुझे 20 नए अंग्रेज़ी शब्द जो है मुझसे सिखवाते थे, पढ़वाते थे। मेरी ड्यूटी ये होती थी कि आज मैं जब स्कूल कॉलेज ख़त्म करके घर जाता था तो मुझे पढ़ना है, किसी भी, कोई भी नॉवेल हो, कोई भी किताब हो, कोई भी ऐसे हो, 20 नए अंग्रेज़ी शब्द लिखने हैं स्पेलिंग के साथ, और उसको याद करना है। मैंने उस वक्त चीफ मिनिस्टर को एक चिट्ठी लिखी। शंकरराव चौहान महाराष्ट्र के चीफ मिनिस्टर थे। उनको मैंने लिखा कि मैं कोल्हापुर में हूँ, आईएएस बनना चाहता हूँ, हमारे पास किताबें नहीं हैं, हमारे पास भाषा पढ़ाने वाले कोई नहीं है, कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशंस के बारे में मार्गदर्शन करने वाला कोई नहीं है, तो आप मुझे किताबें देने की व्यवस्था कीजिए। तो उन्होंने जो है एक चिट्ठी कलेक्टर को भेज दी, एक चिट्ठी हमारे जो कॉलेज के संस्था चालक थे उनको भेज दी कॉपी, कि आप कुछ करें इसमें। उन्होंने कहा आप लिस्ट दे दो, 50-100 किताब की लिस्ट दे दो, उन्होंने, मैंने लिस्ट दे दी, वो सब किताबें मंगवा दी, मुझे दे दी, बोली कि इसको वापस करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, तुम ये रखो। दैट्स हाउ आई गॉट इनटू प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर आईएएस। तब आईएफएस का बारे में बिल्कुल पता नहीं था, तो धीरे धीरे पता चल गया। इस दरमियान मैंने महाराष्ट्र पब्लिक सर्विस कमीशन की परीक्षा भी दे दी, वहाँ मेरा चयन हो गया, मैं पहला आ गया वहाँ पर, आई स्टूड फर्स्ट इन दैट एग्जामिनेशन। तो मैंने काम करना शुरू किया एज अ प्रोबेशनरी डिप्यूटी कलेक्टर। वहाँ मैंने देखा, मुझे ये लगा कि ये सिर्फ महाराष्ट्र राज्य से सीमित है। दिस वर्क ऑफ डिप्यूटी कलेक्टर और कलेक्टर इन दिस केस विल बी लिमिटेड टू स्टेट ऑफ महाराष्ट्र। मेरा फिर ध्यान जो है आईएफएस की तरफ चला गया। मैंने कहा आईएफएस पूरी दुनिया देखने को मिलती है, तो फिर मैंने सोचा कि मैं आईएफएस को फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस दे दूँगा। एंड व्हेन आई फिल्ड द फॉर्म, मैंने आईएएस को प्रेफरेंस दे दिया, आईएएस को सेकंड प्रेफरेंस दिया, आईपीएस को दे दिया, आईआरएस को दे दिया, और एक सर्विस देके 4-5 में मैंने आगे की प्रेफरेंस मैंने दिए ही नहीं। व्हेन द इंटरव्यू केम, फ्रैंकली, एंड आई एम सेइंग दिस ऑनेस्टली, आई फॉरगॉट दैट आई हैव गिवन प्रेफरेंस, फर्स्ट प्रेफरेंस टू आईएफएस। और ऑफ कोर्स उस दिन का मैंने अखबार पढ़ा था अच्छे से, प्रिपरेशन भी उसके पहले मेन एग्ज़ाम के लिए बहुत अच्छी तगड़ी प्रिपरेशन की थी। और जब सिलेक्शन हो गया तो मैं आपको क्या बताऊं, इट वाज द अल्टीमेट जॉय। उन्होंने मुझे एक के बाद फॉरेन के बारे में, फॉरेन रिलेशंस के बारे में प्रश्न पूछना शुरू किया। एंड आई मस्ट से कि आई वाजंट वेरी एडिक्वेटली प्रिपेयर्ड, क्योंकि इस दरमियान मैंने प्रेफरेंस तो दे के फॉर्म को भूल गया था। आजकल कॉपी आप लोग रखते हैं या तो ऑटोमेटिकली डिजिटल कॉपी बन जाती है, वो सुविधा उस वक्त नहीं थी। बट इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस, फॉरेन रिलेशंस, डिप्लोमेसी, इसके बारे में मेरा नॉलेज वाज ज़ीरो, क्लोज टू ज़ीरो। थोड़ा बहुत जो पढ़ा होगा वही पढ़ा होगा। सो आई थिंक आई डिड नॉट नो इवन आफ्टर द इंटरव्यू वाज ओवर कि मेरा इंटरव्यू ठीक रहा नहीं रहा। लेकिन मुझे इतना पता था कि पार्ट 2 ऑफ माई इंटरव्यू आई वॉज एबल टू ब्रॉडली गिव quite comprehensive answers, and lo and behold I was selected. Lo and behold I got Indian Foreign Service, and frankly this is a journey, it's so exciting. I don't really compare between IAS, IFS and IPS and IRS and other services, primarily because each service has its own charm, each service has its own honors and incentives, and each service also has its drawbacks. Let's not glorify or undermine these services. But I can tell you something about the foreign service, and I have also observed people in the other services. I have traveled a lot in India, that foreign service is a different category altogether. It does give you unparalleled exposure to the world, number one. Number two, I think in today's world, every service has an external affairs element. Let's say Ukraine and Russia war, it has impact on all of us, the entire world it has impact on. Let's take the example of any disaster management. We have to have technology, we have to depend on other countries. There are about 32 million Indians जो बाहर के देशों में रहते हैं. That means all of us are connected to things that are external affairs. So all this अगर देखा जाए, अगर आपको एक देश में टूरिस्ट करके जाने का मौका मिलता है, तो उस देश को आप जिस तरह से समझते हो वो बहुत ही कर्सरी और सुपरफिशियल होता है. लेकिन एज ए डिप्लोमेट यू स्टे देयर फॉर 3 years. You get to know the top people, you also get to observe the society, the politics, you get to know the politicians there, you need to get to know the scientists, technologists, business people, people in the literature, culture. So your mind opens up to an entire new vista to which you are hitherto unfamiliar. In India, if you work in a state, primarily you stay in that state. Maybe एक हाथ बार आप दिल्ली आ जाओगे, but अगेन आपको चीफ सेक्रेटरी बनना है तो वापस जाना पड़ेगा. आईपीएस का भी सिमिलरली यू हैव कार्डर्स अलॉटेड टू यू. सो देर आर डिफरेंट थिंग्स. अब नाउ फॉरेन सर्विस में यू विल आस्क मी कि aren't there any disadvantages? Yes, there is a dislocation every year, every 3 years from one country to another or from India to other country. There are issues that you can face, for example बच्चों की स्कूल का कभी प्रॉब्लम होता है, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इज़ वेरी सेंसिटिव. इट पेज यू for the school fees abroad completely 100% reimbursement. The members of family, they are insured 100%. So, you do not really have any medical issue to worry about when you are abroad. And then the houses are generally very spacious, all the facilities are, they are well furnished houses, because ultimately you are not representing yourself, you are not representing even the Ministry of External Affairs, you are representing the entire country. So, if you are a representative of 1.35 billion people, you have the pride, and therefore you need to have these basic requirements and a dignified life abroad, which you get. And then the opportunity to work, whether in the field of commerce, science and technology, diplomacy, negotiations, signing of agreements, conventions, MOUs with other countries, all of it involves so much of creativity, so much of joy that you can really say कि भाई हाँ ज़िंदगी में मैंने कुछ कर दिखाया, कर दिखाऊंगा, दोनों कर सकते हैं आप. जब आप एम्बेसडर बन जाएंगे तो you have the ability and power and authority to change the entire complexion of that relationship, depending on what area you would like to focus, whether it is commerce, whether it is investments, whether it is technology, and there is actually sky is the limit. Even sky also is not the limit if you want to have cooperation established between the two countries in the area of space and space technology. India is doing very well, as you know. So, ये एक अपना मुझे जो लगा कि I was deputy collector and I wanted to come to the foreign service because I thought the canvas is very limited. Now here the canvas is absolutely unlimited when you come to the foreign service. However, there could be some issues. For example, if your spouse is working in India, if spouse is in the other service, then one has to compromise, and this is something I always feel that Ministry of External Affairs should work in cooperation with DOPT to bring some kind of guidelines. But anyway, that is a different topic. What I am trying to say is, except for some small disadvantages, overall it is a glorious service. Now you will ask me what kind of qualifications are required. Well, educational qualifications for the UPSC, same for everyone, but as a foreign service, how can you prepare better? I think एक तो आप कोशिश कीजिए कि हर रोज़ जो राष्ट्रीय वार्तापत्र है, न्यूज़पेपर्स है, उसमें से इंटरनेशनल सेक्शन ज़रूर पढ़िएगा. मुझे लगता है कि कोई भी अंडरस्टैंडिंग जो है वो सिर्फ किताब से नहीं आ सकती. किसी भी चीज़ की अंडरस्टैंडिंग, इनसाइट जो है वो किताब से नहीं आ सकती. किताब इज़ अ काइंड ऑफ अ सप्लीमेंट्री or complementary thing. What you have to know is, you have to know the dynamics of that issue, how international relations is something which is not a static topic, it changes every day. Even if you take Ukraine-Russia war, the contours are changing, the impact is changing every day. So, you have to, as a subject, you have to watch it every day. So, looking at the international sections of the newspaper can be very crucial. Read at least one good weekly, one good monthly. Well, I personally recommend Economist. If you want to read only one, Economist is an outstanding paper. Now, Indian economic newspapers are also have really come up, whether it is Economic Times, Financial Express, these are really mint, these are really good, give lot of good information, there are good articles. So, read as much as possible. I would also request you to meet people who are generally connected with somehow international relations. You might have in your neighborhood somebody who is involved in exports and imports. You might have someone who is working on the technology field, startups. You might have someone who is educationist. Meeting people of diverse background will always help you in the foreign service, because ultimately what is tested is your understanding and insight in the world in which we are living, local level, state level, national level and the global level. Your understanding is tested. It is not really about whether you know the Prime Minister of New Zealand, for example, unless that person is in the news at that particular point of time. That is not a relevant thing, but relevant thing is what does New Zealand represent in the contemporary world. That is very relevant, you must know that. So, in terms of personality traits, I would say that you must have curiosity about what is happening outside the world. Number 2, you should be able to relate, I would say, local to the global, because today everything is connected, environment being one of the most topical things for all of us, because climate action has become extremely important, SDGs have become very important, and if you look at the 17 SDGs, you will realize that they are all related to everything that is here and now, local. So, today local is global and global is local, that is what approach you should have when you study for the Indian Foreign Service, particularly you prepare. Then you also of course speak to those who have just got into the Foreign Service in the last 3 to 5 years, because they will also have some insights to share which I may not be knowing. I have been to 6 countries, stayed there, then I also worked in the Ministry of External Affairs and tried to contribute there. I have also, I must tell you, being a Foreign Service officer does not prevent you from working in the state, at the state level or in the various ministries of the central government. I have worked in Ministry of Commerce for 3.5 years. I have also worked in Ministry of Finance as director for about 3.5 years. So, and then I also worked in Cabinet Secretariat. So, these possibilities are there, that you do not have to stick to Ministry of External Affairs when you come to Delhi. You can also take a deputation to the state governments, because that is also permissible now. So, just as IAS, when you get into the Foreign Service, you are invited to join the Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy of Administration in Mussoorie, and there you get to mingle with other services, officers of other services, they are coming all over the country. For me it was quite a dramatic change, because I was for the first time exposed to people of other states. I had never imagined that I will meet somebody from Mizoram, for example, or somebody from Tamil Nadu. So, this is great. I personally felt that Mussoorie made me truly Indian. पहले मैं महाराष्ट्र का था, लेकिन when I joined the Foreign Service, joined Mussoorie training, I became truly a true representative of India, or I became true Indian. And so, this once you finish the training, where actually foundation course is same for everyone, you come to Delhi, and in Delhi like Hyderabad is for IPS, for IAS they continue in Mussoorie and also go to the state. For the Foreign Service officers, it is now New Delhi Foreign Service Institute or Foreign Service Training Institute is based near JNU. It's a state of art institute with all the facilities. There you stay for almost 1.5 years, and there are several modules. So, you are really exposed to all aspects of Foreign Service as well as all aspects of India, because that particular thing where you do the Bharat Darshan, you are attached to various institutes, ministries, large number of experts from diverse fields, they will come to you, they will talk about various topics which are important from economic aspect, important from cultural side. ICCR has a special module. So, it is a very comprehensive training of about a year plus, and then you have time, then you can join the Ministry of External Affairs for a while as a trainee officer. You also get to see the Prime Minister, get to have an audience with the Honorable President of India. You also get to see all other ministers, and that is really your orientation in the service. Then you straight away fly out, become the 3rd secretary. Third secretary is generally also expected to learn language of that country. Like I studied Japanese, some of my batchmates went to Russia, they studied Russian, some went to Hong Kong, they studied Chinese, somebody went to Spain, he studied Spanish. Like that we had different languages to study, and the duration of language training is between 1 to 1.5 years, sometimes it could be 2 years also, but intermittently you are also expected to work in the embassy. You are given some work, often you are part of some delegation, you are part of protocol also. That is I would say a learning phase. You are exposed slowly to the entire world of international relations, foreign service, diplomacy, etc., etc. And once you pass the exam, you are confirmed, you become second secretary, and then your career graph after second secretary, you might get posted back to India, or you might be posted as to some other country. The next higher level is first secretary, which is broadly in the range of deputy secretary, director in India, and then you become a counselor. This is again about director's level. Then you become what we call number 2 in the mission, joint secretary level. You are called minister, depending on the mission size. If the mission is very big, you can be deputy high commissioner or a deputy chief of the mission, DCM as it is called. And as you know, thereafter you have the post of ambassador or high commissioner. Often people ask me, what is the difference between high commissioner and ambassador? Is this one lower than the other? There is nothing like that. The countries which are members of the Commonwealth countries, they call each other's ambassadors as high commissioners. So, there is not, other than nomenclature, there is no difference. Yes, if at all you have to gauge the importance or significance, there are big missions and small missions. Then there are important countries and non-important countries, or I would say relatively less important countries. Because every country is important, because every country has at least has one vote in the United Nations. So, we can't discriminate and distinguish in that sense, but yes, depending on the size of trade, size of investment, capacities in technology, these all matter, and of course, whether you are member of this group or that group, that also matters. The Security Council members, the 5 countries, they always come at the top in a sense, but there are other important groupings, and I must say that compared to the time when I joined the service, those of you who will be joining the foreign service will be far more luckier, because India is now considered an important player on the world stage. So, if you are representing India at any level, you can really be proud, because you will be really respected as the representative of this great country, which has had taken enormous steps in terms of development, in terms of nation building, and in terms of welfare and well-being of our people. The fact that we are the largest democracy has really been received very well. The fact that the transfer of power in India is always very peaceful is also been seen as a great sign of our mature democracy. And certainly there are other aspects, like we have developed in terms of technology, in terms of IT, we are a power now. So, all these things add, and I must say that therefore, I do recommend in case you decide to join the foreign service, it will be a great career ahead of you. You will ask perhaps, what is a typical day of a foreign service officer when he is in India or when he is abroad? Well, no day is the same, no day is repeated ever. Every day is a new day in the foreign service. Today I get up and I will get a call from ambassador. Well, somebody is coming to meet me at 9:30, you be there. And as a junior officer, I will go and I will suddenly see there some important visitor from India. He could be a great writer, he could be a great scientist, he could even be a minister also of a state. So, day starts, then maybe I will come back to my office, handle some files about sending a political report of that particular week or that month to the ministry. In between I will get some calls from New Delhi's Ministry of External Affairs, or maybe Ministry of Urban Development, maybe from Sahitya Academy or CSIR. We wanting to send a delegation and we would like to see and meet these people. Suddenly I might get a call from FICCI or CII. They wanting to see if there is some summit in India and can you organize a delegation from France or from USA, wherever you are. So and then you would, in the evening perhaps you will be invited by the local foreign ministry to come to their National Day celebration, or you perhaps are hosting a dinner in honor of some visiting dignitary from India, secretary to maybe Commerce Ministry or Finance Ministry or maybe Women and Child Development Ministry. So that is how, and by the time before you realize the day is over. More or less same is also in Delhi, but I would say in Delhi the component of handling the files is somewhat more, but Delhi also you have visiting people, visiting delegations. As an officer I would get an opportunity to go abroad frequently, to attend meetings, to attend some bilateral annual meetings, to accompany a delegation from India led by Prime Minister, led by President. So there is this huge diversity and variety in the work that you are doing, and frankly you are constantly on the move. It is a very dynamic ministry, and the nature of work is very dynamic. Well, if I am asked once again to take UPSC exam and asked to give a choice without fail, I will certainly opt for foreign service. My daughter, who is also in the foreign service, chose on her own. We did not pressurize her to go to take foreign service or IAS, but perhaps because she saw the life of her father, how he worked, how he represented the country, how he built the relationships, and there are great opportunities to experiment and add to the relationship between the two countries. For example, in Maldives, we were able to start a new cultural center there, and as an ambassador or high commissioner you recommend it, follow it up, ministry approves it, and you have a new setup entirely established during your time. So things like that you keep on adding wherever you go, build relationship. I was in Russia as a first secretary, and I started a business association there for Indian business people, and today that has grown into a mammoth organization, and on the 25th anniversary of that organization, as somebody who had established that organization, I was invited to come. It was a great satisfying moment for me to see that invitation. I could not go, but subsequently when I went, I was received by the members of the business community saying that, well, in a sense you are the father of this organization. So these things, and of course you have the opportunity to help people on visa, passport, distressed Indians who are caught abroad in bad situations. You can really help them to come back to India and have their normal life and reunited with the families. So all in all, this is how I would say that I have lived a very happy, satisfied life. There were challenges, no doubt, but on the whole there were more rewards than anything else, and I strongly recommend this service.
कौन नहीं चाहता कि उसका मेंटर एक यूपीएससी रैंकर हो। 2021 के फाइनल रिजल्ट्स में सिविल्स दिल्ली आईएएस के 200 से भी ज्यादा सिलेक्शंस हैं। गाइस, आई एम गोइंग टू कनेक्ट यू 1-to-1 विद सिविल्स दिल्ली रैंकर्स फॉर फ्री। देयर इज अ लिंक इन द डिस्क्रिप्शन, फिल इट एंड स्केड्यूल अ सेशन। These ranker will prepare a timetable and a personalized plan for you. ये टॉपर्स आपको exactly वही बताएंगे कि कौन सी बुक फॉलो करनी है, कौन सा चैप्टर पढ़ना है. They will guide you in answer writing, mocks and accessing them. Don't miss this golden opportunity to get mentored by a ranker.
Well, there is another perhaps understanding of the foreign service, which is I personally think is a myth. That is, if you are abroad, perhaps you are wining dining and you have no time to do grassroots work, or you have no opportunity to work at the grassroots level. But I can tell you today with technology that has changed. I will tell you a very interesting example from my own experience. When I was in Maldives, I started a weekly conference with my villagers. What I used to do is, that time Skype had just become a fashion, or it had just come as a new technology. We had a big TV in my village, and then my village students and teachers, they would gather in one room, and sometimes the neighboring village students would also come. I, in my office as a High Commissioner, I will have one guest from the Maldivian side. It could be a minister, it could be simply a doctor there in their hospital, or a teacher also, or somebody who is working as a manager in the resorts, and they will tell about their experience of Maldives to the students in my village, to the teachers in my village, and then they will ask questions, and there will be an interaction for 1 hour. This is what I started. Isn't it a grassroots thing? When I was in Japan, there was an annual event which was conducted by the ladies of the embassy, primarily the wives of officers. And during that event, it was a charity event, they also collected some money, and this was being donated to India, Indian charities or Indian NGOs. So, there was a school being built near my village for deaf and dumb people, those who can't speak primarily, those who can't hear. So, I was able to help that organization, and today the building, that time it was very cheap. So, for 3-4 years they got about 50,000 rupees each, and it helped the building to come up in those times. So, it is really up to us how creatively and imaginatively you can connect with the grassroots, because I was lucky to have my village and my rural background, where I did not have to search for a village to help. So, subsequently many things I was able to do. I have been able to establish what I would say an institution in my village for orphan children, and it has got now 50 children in my village. Now, villagers look after them, but initially I helped them to establish the entire institution. So, it is not really, in today's connected world, nothing is impossible if you want to stay connected. Oh yes, you can't be a collector, you can't be a district magistrate, but how does it matter? As long as you have the urge to give back, there are many opportunities even when you are abroad. See, some of us may not be very comfortable with even going to a small place. As you know, your first posting in IAS would be really in a very mufassil place. Not everybody is suited. So, for those people who are not really wanting to go and live, foreign service is a very suitable place. If you have had some kind of a enthusiasm for learning foreign languages, then again foreign service is a good place. I am sure there would be some consideration when you actually appear for the interview for your knowledge of that area and this thing. Third thing, if you have studied international relations, that would also have benefit, because, and if you are specialized, if you have done a thesis or a project work, that will be beneficial. Fourth, I would say, if you have worked in a truly international company, not necessarily only as an IT engineer, but even as a marketing expert who have in that process acquired a lot of knowledge about outside world, certainly you have an advantage. If you are outgoing personality, because foreign service does demand that you entertain people, you meet people, whether they are Indians or people from that country, does not matter. You should have that flair for meeting people, and because it requires enthusiasm, it also requires energy, and not everybody is suited for such work, because lot of work is really PR work also. When you are dealing with the local officers of the government, or you are dealing with economic and business corporations and organizations, you require a lot of energy, lot of information, and you should be able to relate things back to your country. You should also have good contacts with other ministries. It is not only foreign ministry, because a lot of things are not done by external affairs ministry, they are done by other ministries. So having good contacts with these ministry can also really serve as a good advantage, positive advantage for you while preparing for the service. So this is what foreign service is all about. एक भारतीय विदेश सेवा जो है अपने आप में एक बहुत अलग चार्मिंग सर्विस है, जहाँ पर आपको एक्चुअली सेटिस्फैक्शन मिलेगा। देश के लिए काम करते समय आप विदेश में रह सकते हो, ये इसकी खासियत है। और मुझे ये भी पता है कि आजकल बहुत सारी लड़कियां फॉरेन सर्विस के लिए ऑप्ट कर रही है। एक नया ट्रेंड है और ये बहुत ही स्वागत करने वाला ट्रेंड है। मैं समझता हूँ कि महिलाओं के लिए ये बहुत सुरक्षित और बहुत अच्छी सेवा है। एंड द ट्रेंड, आई रियली वेलकम द ट्रेंड। आई हैव really had a very satisfying tenure in the foreign service, and I am sure you all who want to join will eventually say the same thing maybe 35 years later. Best of luck. आपको बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। नमस्कार।